In the silent waste of the Negev desert, an ancient stone-lined wellhead of pale weathered limestone, its rim worn smooth by rope, set in dry dust with the low sun raking across it, marks a place where survival itself was once drawn up bucket by bucket from the deep earth. Long before armies marched across this landscape, these water points dictated where human life could endure and where the wilderness would claim everything. By the autumn of 1917, the arid expanse of Ottoman-held Palestine had transformed water from a routine logistical concern into the absolute center of global military strategy. Generals planning vast maneuvers across hundreds of miles knew that ammunition and food meant nothing if thousands of men and horses collapsed from sheer thirst before ever reaching the battlefield. Every decision made in this theater came down to a simple, unyielding truth, where the location of liquid beneath the sand dictated the movement of entire armies. Before a single shot was fired or a single trench was dug, the entire campaign hinged on whether an advancing force could secure water before their animals perished in the dust. Along the Mediterranean coast lay the heavily fortified city of Gaza, anchoring the western end of the formidable Ottoman defensive line. 46 kilometers inland to the east sat the frontier town of Beersheba, anchoring the opposite flank of the enemy position. In March of 1917, Allied forces launched their first major assault directly against the coastal strongholds of Gaza. That first attempt ended in bitter disappointment, as deeply entrenched Ottoman defenders repelled the frontal infantry attack. A second attempt to breach Gaza was ordered in April 1917, utilizing tanks and heavy artillery barrages. The second battle resulted in severe casualties and left the Ottoman defensive line completely intact along the coast. Allied commanders realized that a direct frontal assault along the sea was no longer viable without astronomical losses. Military consensus held that turning the line at its eastern end near Beersheba was impossible due to the waterless wilderness. The eastern flank was guarded not just by soldier redoubts, but by miles of sun-baked stone and complete absence of springs. Popular history often imagines a sudden, impulsive cavalry charge straight out of the distant desert horizon. The true ordeal was a brutal three-night march across relentless wilderness that pushed men and horses to their physical limits. Rations were kept strictly to minimal emergency levels, and water was rationed to a few precious gulps per day. On the afternoon of the 30th of October, the Desert Mounted Corps departed their staging camp roughly 16 miles southeast of the town. They rode silently through the cold desert night, navigating by stars to bypass enemy outposts undetected. Beersheba held numerous ancient water wells, and those subterranean reserves were the sole reason the settlement mattered at all. Lieutenant General Harry Chauvel issued stark instructions to his commanders regarding the absolute necessity of capturing those wells. Chauvel made it plain that there was no water between their position on that side of Beersheba and Essani. Failure to take the wells meant retreat, and retreat through 30 miles of dry desert meant the total loss of their horses. At dawn on the 31st of October 1917, British infantry regiments launched the primary assault from the west and south. The attack was supported by over 100 heavy artillery pieces, pounding the outer perimeter defenses. By 1 p.m., British infantry had successfully cleared the town's outer defensive positions after hours of heavy combat. Despite clearing the outer perimeter, the crucial town center and its stone wells remained firmly in Ottoman hands. Meanwhile, to the east, New Zealand and Australian troops fought a crucial side battle at the steep hill of Tel Sheva. Ottoman machine gunners positioned atop Tel Sheva swept the plain below, locking down any prospective movement into the town. Dismounted troops crawled up the rocky slopes under heavy machine gun fire to dismantle the stronghold point by point. It was only after Tel Sheva was finally secured in the late afternoon that any mounted assault across the plain became possible. By 4:30 p.m., with less than 2 hours of daylight remaining, the central objective was still unachieved. Standard doctrine dictated pulling back before nightfall, but withdrawal without water meant catastrophic destruction for the force. Commanders knew the Ottoman garrison had already rigged explosives to destroy the town's wells if pressed to retreat. Lieutenant General Harry Chauvel made the audacious decision to bypass standard tactical doctrine entirely. He ordered Brigadier General William Grant to deploy the 4th Light Horse Brigade directly against the fortified trenches. The order was to attack while still mounted on horseback, rushing straight toward entrenched machine guns and rifles. Crucially, Chauvel possessed recent intelligence gathered from aerial reconnaissance photographs. The aerial photographs revealed that this specific sector of Ottoman trenches was not protected by barbed wire entanglements. Without barbed wire to snag horse hooves, speed could potentially carry the troopers over enemy trenches before defense fire adjusted. Understanding the nature of the unit about to charge changes everything about how this historical moment is viewed. The 4th Light Horse Brigade were not traditional cavalry. They were mounted infantry trained to ride to battle and fight on foot. Standard cavalry doctrine involved charging with sabers or lances to slice through foot soldiers from the saddle. Because they were mounted infantry, these men possessed no swords and no lances whatsoever. To give themselves offensive shock value on horseback, the men devised an improvised measure. Troopers drew their steel rifle bayonets and held them firmly in bare fists, pointed forward like makeshift daggers. Roughly 800 riders drawn from the 4th and 12th Light Horse Regiments assembled in long lines. As the order was given, 800 horses broke from a trot into a full gallop, riding across 4 to 6 kilometers of open terrain, each trooper holding a British pattern rifle bayonet held in a bare fist. Blade forward, no rifle attached as they accelerated into gathering dusk. Ottoman riflemen in the trenches failed to adjust their sight settings fast enough as the galloping horses closed distance. Bullets flew high over the heads of the charging cavalry as the momentum of 800 horses overwhelmed the front lines. Leading squadrons leaped straight over primary trench lines, dismounting on the far side to clear redoubts with rifles. Following regiments rode straight past main defenses directly into the streets of Beersheba to secure vital infrastructure. Australian losses in the mounted charge were remarkably light, with 31 troopers killed and 36 wounded. The sacrifice of the horses was heavy, with around 70 horses killed and more than 60 wounded during the charge. British infantry forces attacking earlier that day from south and west suffered about 171 killed in heavy trench fighting. Ottoman casualties were estimated at around 1,000 killed and wounded, with over 700 prisoners captured by evening. The supreme objective of the entire operation was achieved as nearly all stone wells were captured intact. Troopers secured the wellheads before retreating garrison engineers could detonate explosive demolition charges. In an incredible stroke of fortune, a sudden desert rainstorm filled nearby surface pools with fresh water. The capture of the town gave roughly 60,000 Allied troops immediate access to desperately needed water reserves. With Beersheba taken, the formidable Gaza to Beersheba defensive line was permanently outflanked and broken. Deprived of their flank anchor, Ottoman forces evacuated Gaza, which fell to Allied troops just 1 week later. The strategic breakthrough opened the path to Jerusalem, where British forces officially entered the Holy City on the 9th of December 1917. Popular narratives often romanticize the action at Beersheba as the last great cavalry charge in military history. Military historians widely dispute that title, citing numerous documented mounted charges across Eastern Europe during World War II. A deeper irony exists in calling it a cavalry charge at all, given the fundamental identity of the men who rode. Because they were mounted infantry carrying bayonets instead of sabers, it was technically an infantry attack delivered at speed. The charge is remembered for galloping horses and held bayonets, creating one of the most striking visual images of modern warfare. Yet no one rode across those open kilometers merely to take a town or claim tactical glory on horse. They rode because behind them lay 3 nights of desert with nothing to drink, and in front sat an ancient stone-lined well, head of pale weathered limestone, its rim worn smooth by rope, set in dry dust with the low sun raking across it, containing the only water for miles. How do you think history should remember this desperate gamble for survival? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more stories from the edge of history.